Do you have a what the heck does this guy, girl even do person at work? What do they actually do when you see them? I haven't worked with this lady in over 10 years, but it still makes me angry. She was BFFs with a different area's manager, so she got brought into a spot that you actually needed knowledge and experience in, and she had none. Whenever you would ask her a question or give her a task, she would just start this really awful, high pitched, baby like voice. People would get tired of talking to her and just do it themselves. If you actually got her to take the work, she would bog you down, asking the stupidest questions, and you'd have been better off just taking the work. We could never figure out if she ever actually did anything. After 18 months of her coasting through, doing nothing, I became the manager of the department. I proceeded to give her all the super crappy stuff no one wanted to do and refused to allow her to pawn it off on others. After about 2 months, she quit. Oh God, you know that baby voice? I can't do it, but hey, there's nothing worse than people who talk in fake, high-pitched voices. Story 2. I have one dude who wears shorts all year round in the office. He's become quite a legend, actually. Every time he passes the reception, he walks down to where we put the trolleys with leftover coffee and buns and cakes and cookies, etc., waiting to be sent back to the kitchen. He's always pretending to speak to someone on the phone or check emails or whatever. Every time he leaves the leftover area, the trolleys are empty. I once saw him chewing one sandwich while packing 2 others into his jacket. It doesn't matter what's left over, he takes it. The legend of the shorts man. Story 3. I'm that person at my work. I was given the title quote-unquote supervisor, but was never given an actual job description. And when I was promoted, my manager brought someone in to take over my old job, but never kicked anyone else out to make room for my new position. Too many people, not enough work. So I just kind of bounce around and do whatever needs to be done. Oh, this paperwork is piling up. Let me input that and file it. Oh, there's more people in the lobby. Let me come up and see if I can help anyone answer any questions. Oh, this person is on a lunch break and they're going to have a lot of stuff to catch up on when they get back. Let me power through half of this so they have an easier time when they come back. Oh, there's nothing for me to do unless I take over what someone else is doing? Cool, I'll just stand around and wait for something to happen. That last one happens too often enough that I've gone job hunting while at work. Story 4. Yep, I'm 100% that guy. A large portion of my job is spent ordering electrical parts. Everyone else in my position, older guys, spends their whole day researching parts by manually searching catalogs and diagrams, calling other reps and making phone calls. It's extremely time-consuming depending on the item. Me? Nah, I just go to the manufacturer's website and click live chat and let them do all the work. They almost always find what I'm looking for in about 10 to 30 minutes. Story 5. I used to, so glad to be rid of them. The first thing we would do at work every single day was walk over and flop down, sigh heavily, and then tell me how exhausted she was. Every day. This is what bothered me the most. If there's work to be done, I'm going to do it, but I don't want to listen to someone make excuses about why they aren't. It was like a ritual preface to laziness. She did the work, just very, very little of it on account of her absolutely glacial pace. But mostly, she talked and talked and talked and talked some more to people who did not want to hear her. Another coworker once made a chart of everything that employee managed to accomplish over an actual workday, along with a second chart of the tasks completed by other staff, and showed it to her. This came close to not working out very well with HR, though I found it surprising to see anyone file a complaint that amounted to, "Someone charted out how bad I am at my job." She's gone now. She was bad at her job. Story 6. Yep, worked at a huge warehouse and there was this big tent just outside filled with pallets. There was a guy driving a counterbalance forklift going back and forth to our building and back to that tent every day, but never anything loaded on the forks. I thought it was weird until I finally talked to the guy and realized he was a total nut job who had worked for the company for so long that they couldn't fire him, so they assigned him to sort and stack pallets inside that tent for 8 hours a day. Ha! Dream job, his sacred place. Story 7. We had a guy transfer from a different department. He started sitting with us in a cubicle for 6 people about 6 weeks ago. We were told that he wasn't part of our group and to not let him work on any of our projects. After 6 weeks of doing absolutely nothing, he finally asked my manager for a project. My manager informed us this guy, he doesn't report to him. I honestly have no clue what this guy does all day. I'm pretty sure he just rides the shuttles between buildings and pretends to go to meetings. Usually when I see him, he is having a personal conversation on his cell phone. I'm also convinced that the person this guy actually reports to has no idea he's supposed to be managing him. The rest of us have started calling him the creeper because he'll randomly show up while we're in the middle of an experiment, stand all up in your personal space and whisper things. Yes, whisper. It's weird. Story 8. Fairly certain it's me. Yeah, the servers I set up and wrote all the management code for never go down. I also automated data reports on the content and get regular updates via cron jobs. The most work I have ever seemed to do is developing scripts for automation. I'll spend a week or two on a really good script, testing and making sure it's robust, and that saves me months of work throughout the year. The rest of the time, I take odd help tickets and manage user accounts on various systems or just go on Reddit. Story 9. We have a guy in our office. He's called Coffee Cup Guy. No one knows where he really sits, but every time someone sees him, he's holding his coffee cup. People from the ground floor basement all the way up to the 4th floor have spotted him on their floor walking the hallways with the coffee cup. One time I happened to be walking behind him in the same direction. I thought, I'll follow him and just see where he sits, then I can at least figure out what he does. We're on the 1st floor. He walks down the stairs to the basement, walks to the other end of the building, goes up the stairs to the 2nd floor, begins walking in the other direction, back towards where he came from. No stops, no talking, just walking. I stopped following him because I was afraid I would find out that he doesn't even work here. Even now, friends of mine IM each other to say, coffee cup guy spotting. Story 10. There is literally someone at the hospital I have no idea what their position is. I'm responsible for healthcare records of all employees, and I never run into her name anywhere. Even if she was a volunteer, she would be in there unless she's never reported being sick. She's just this annoying little social butterfly that constantly floats around from department to department. And whenever I ask where she works, no one can really provide a straight answer. Oh, she's with Human Resources or something. I'm suspicious she's a crazy person who wandered out of the psych ward, or I'm the crazy person hallucinating my own version of Tyler Durden, who's an annoying, gossipy, middle-aged woman in flowery yoga pants and makes cake disappear. Story 11. A few months ago, we hired a music director at my small liberal arts college. He's a super talented musician and plays with some local orchestras that are a pretty big deal. Awesome, right? Well, totally, except for the fact that our school doesn't have a music program. Supposedly it's being developed, but it seems like we've jumped the gun by hiring a full-time person to run a non-existent program. In the summers, I work full-time as the registration assistant, and this guy's office is just a few doors down from mine. For at least 3 to 4 hours a day, he sits there and plays a violin. At first, it was lovely to hear beautiful classical music roaming through my hallway. But now it's torment. I asked another coworker the other day what he's supposed to be doing here, and she had no idea either. So basically, this guy gets paid to annoy the entire 3rd floor hallway with classical music for at least half of the day. Story 12. There are 2 for me, and they both sit right next to me. Foreign Indian lady, senior software engineer, comes in at 10, goes to lunch at 12, comes back at 2, leaves to pick up her son until 4, comes back, goes on Facebook until 5, then leaves work. Most of the time, she's on Facebook reading some article, talking on her phone, or going around the office making conversation. Almost all her conversations with anyone is about her freaking son, and I don't freaking care about your son, alright? Most of the time when the manager comes by, she complains about how tough her work is. I think she's been working on the same thing for over 2 years. Foreign Chinese lady, software engineer, she's always staring off into space or talking on her phone, not work-related. When I ask her questions about our projects or ask her to do something because she's responsible for it, she replies back to me in unintelligible English. I tried speaking Chinese once to explain something since I am Chinese as well, and her replies were still in unintelligible English. I think she misuses the fact that no one understands her in order to avoid work. Story 13. I was that guy. For about 4 years, I ran an independent living program for teenagers in the foster care system. The position had a lot of turnover through the years, and they specifically asked me to take it over in order to bring stability to it. For the longest time, I was essentially the only person in the building who really knew what the program was supposed to be. Everyone else knew the name of it and knew I was the guy running it, but didn't know anything other than that. That being said, I was far from lazy. I had to take initiative to learn the job and actually turn the program into something. I had to advocate for better funding, and in order to do so, needed good evidence to support my arguments. It was a ton of work, and people could tell I worked hard, but they didn't have the slightest clue what I was actually doing, even my supervisor. After about 3 years, they put me under a new supervisor who essentially doubted I was actually working. When she started looking at my work and comparing it with my timesheets, she was a bit floored at how much I'd accomplished with no recognition. She became a huge advocate for me after that. Story 14. Had this lady that did something with the web or web security. I did multimedia and thought we'd collaborate often. However, she was always too busy to take on any extra work. She was extra quiet in a room with noise canceling, so you never knew if she was there or not. However, when she was addressed, she would look like a deer in headlights until she knew what the person was talking about, and then she would bray like a mule. She never wore regular clothes. It was more like she wore costumes. She was an aging goth. She probably got into that fad on the ground floor. Often, she wore shirts with some emblem on the front, a huge decorative brooch above her face, a turban or headdress, and on days she biked, she wore a bike helmet over the turban. She was a goddamn totem pole. Story 15. Yes, whenever I see her away from her desk, she's making copies. She makes almost 2 times what I make. This was a new position created in our department a few years ago. I've been here 6 years. I read the job description when it was posted, and roughly 40% of the job is what I do currently. I applied and wasn't even given an interview. So whenever I see her making her copies and I'm over at my desk maintaining inventories, reports, databases, and doing analytic work for one of the largest school districts in California, I get a little upset. Story 16. Worked on a contract job for the state. I supported the field techs. Our in-house IT guy was a tall, lurch-looking dude that had everyone afraid of him. He'd roll in at 11 or so, then leave at 4:30, 5 p.m. Everyone in the office came to me for help, one, because I was there, and two, because I was nicer. But one time, the boss asked him about security logs for the company that was monitoring the building. He quickly shot that down, saying we didn't need to pay the extra $4.95 for the printed logs, which would have given his hours away. The boss thought he stayed late working on computers. Somehow, he had the boss snowed. The boss came to him and asked about all kinds of stuff. Another favorite story was when I was telling him that I wanted to connect a projector to watch movies. Well, one day the office had a presentation they wanted to do and the projector was gone. I called him and asked about it, and he had it at home and told me to tell the people they'd have to wait until he came in. This guy had nerves. When the contract was over, he was the only person that went into another office in the company. How did he spend his days? After I showed him how to rip DVDs, he spent his days ripping every DVD he could get his hands on. Story 17. Our gym has personal training, group fitness, typical classes, yoga, cycle, kickboxing, etc., and just recently built an interval training studio. This interval training is in a separate room and is an additional cost to the members. We have a guy in charge of it, interval training supervisor. Since it's an additional fee and basically the same thing as the free group classes, the number of members in the program is really low. We only have 2 classes a day. This guy's job is salaried 9 to 6 and consists solely of hanging out at the gym, working out. For 2 hours of the day, he is responsible for making sure the classes run smoothly. He doesn't even teach them. He basically just watches the 3 to 4 members walk in and the instructor get going. That's it. Story 18. Right now, it's me. I have a job, but it's pretty reactive rather than proactive. Usually, I'm on Reddit. I actually wish they would give me more work. I asked, and they said I wasn't ready yet. Chicken and egg stuff. The other was a co-op we had. I would walk by his desk a lot because my old job was very busy. Every single time I walked by, without fail, he was watching LOL streams on his second monitor at full screen. He didn't care if I saw it, but if someone from his team saw it, he fumbled really fast like he was doing something important. Story 19. My father a couple of years ago, after a few injuries and having an empty wallet, took a desk job for a while. I forgot exactly what he was doing, but I did go to work with him one day because I was visiting him out of state and had nothing better to do. He did about 30 minutes of work in the morning, then he spent the rest of the day on Facebook and news sites, but it gets better. Other employees only did 15 minutes of work a day, so he was doubling their load. He got a promotion, his own office. He took the back of his office and set up filing cabinets all along the wall, but 2 feet from the wall, then stacked boxes on top of the filing cabinets to the ceiling so it looked like the filing cabinets went all the way to the wall. Made a fake door out of wood with cardboard glued to it to blend in with the other boxes. He had a sleeping cot back there. Story 20. This person just left, but while they were there, I did not understand their purpose. 2 of my other coworkers and I were cross-trained in this person's duties, and the 3 of us more than covered the requirements needed in both time and productivity, but the other person remained there for 2 years after we all started. Their skills, or lack thereof, were absolutely superfluous in the office, and they brought nothing of note to the table. Their interpersonal skills were shoddy at best, and she was like the dullest knife in the drawer. Most of the time, they would either be on Facebook or shopping during the workday. Still, they were being paid the same as the 3 of us. Story 21. Definitely. There's this young guy. I think he's the son of one of the big bosses' friends, probably hired as a favor as he has no mission and no particular qualifications. He is just here. We sometimes try to give him something to do, but he messes up almost every time as he basically has 0 initiative and is a bit absent-minded, so eventually people stop giving him stuff to do. He tries to look busy in some way, but we all know he has absolutely no mission whatsoever. Not a bad guy or anything, but he is just a bit useless, and we would have preferred someone useful to reinforce some departments that are a bit understaffed. Story 22. I've met a few, been one. It is sort of like eminence grise, though not quite. It's almost like being the president of the company, but not the president. It is the guy that knows how the company is put together, all the quirks and hiccups, how to make things flow through the company, the person you go to for questions in any area. Many mid-sized companies have them. Small companies go right to the president or the whole company has meetings so everyone knows. Huge companies are huge, although someone in a department might have the knowledge of that large department or the company as a whole. I've been in companies where I've known all the areas and how they work and operated as an unofficial president, but not even an unofficial president. But everyone always came to me for answers. Ask, pray to me, he'll know how to do it. And if it is a good corporation, the people in charge will know what is happening and you just have to do what you do. They will see it. If you're in a bad company, you tell other people to screw off so that you can do your own job and don't get in trouble and lose it. I've known guys at companies who have no title on their business cards, and when I ask what they do, they say, oh, this and that, I do everything. But you can't really say this is what the person does in a way that you can say for an accounts payable clerk or a warehouse stock person or a CFO. I think every company should always have one of these guys, the what the heck guy or gal. He or she is like the backup for everything. Every semi-complex system needs redundancy. Get someone who is an actual know-it-all, and everyone knows that person is the first go-to guy or gal. Yeah, it frees up much of the formal management time too. The whole company goes to him or her first rather than 15 different managers who all have to interrupt what they're doing. I mean, as a manager, it is great to say, I'll only meet between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m., but crap happens in real time, as we all freaking know. So who is this person you go to when crap hits the fan and you know all about it? It is that guy. And it is best if it is organic rather than a hired position, of course. Just someone that starts doing all that crap out of the woodwork, and everyone likes him or her. Let them roll and don't screw with it. Just don't even touch that crap. Best thing that can happen to your company, let them sit around. They're not doing nothing. You know it because crap mysteriously starts working, and the place runs smoother somehow, yet you're not quite sure, but you suspect it is that person. Don't mess with it. Story 23. That was me. I got all the jobs that didn't require a whole person to be hired for each one, so 20% of my time went to this task, 10% to another. I was never bored. The problem was that each task was completely unrelated to the next, and each task involved a completely different department. Since the people in each department only cared about what I did for them, everyone assumed I had all the time in the world and treated my other tasks as if they didn't exist or as annoying vices. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 24. I work in a law office as a legal assistant, one of our older legal assistants. I'm really unsure of what she does all day. Her attorney types all of his own pleadings, etc. She maybe does a few letters and some filing, but she always freaks out if someone asks her to do anything and says she's so busy and can't. I know she's not. I have no idea what the heck she's doing with 8 hours every day. Also, just a rant, we were down 2 assistants and another assistant, and I took up the work of these people. She didn't help, not once. Which? Story 25. Yes, so I work for the state parks, and we have a park ranger that does nothing. He doesn't even know what his real job duties are because the other park rangers and park staff handle everything. We see him occasionally drive around, walk around, and that's it. We don't know where he goes most of the time or what he does. He is technically in charge of the park staff, but really they don't need to listen to him because they already know what to do and listen to the park ranger above him. I think it's a typical state job where you have 1 hour of work and an 8-hour work shift. Story 26. I was that guy at one point on a construction job. Officially, I was the night shift quality assurance inspector. I actually did do stuff, but only for about 40 minutes a night. Basically, I was checking 2 separate but identical structures next to each other. Every night, I'd go to the top, check that the iron workers did their job, and sign off as such. The kicker is shift started at 7 p.m. and I reported at the same time as everyone else and participated in the stretches and pre-shift pep talk. I'd then go to my office and read a book, watch a movie, sleep, whatever, until about 2 a.m. I'd go to Structure 1 and make sure all the ties were in place, which involved simply looking at around 150 bars of vertical steel and making sure they were tied correctly. If I found errors, I'd just have the nearest worker fix it. I couldn't even if I wanted to, union job, then repeat for Structure 2. This took maybe 15 minutes per structure. I'd then go back to my office and wait around again until 4:30 when I'd observe our third-party concrete tester working, record the result, and then hand them off to day shift at around 5:30, leave it around 6 a.m. 11 hours a day, 6 days a week, paid hourly and paid well, honestly, even before the ridiculous overtime I got. And I maybe did an hour of actual work a day. I felt guilty sometimes, but more often I felt bored out of my mind. You've never seen such thorough and up-to-date paperwork. Story 27. Yeah, the woman at our office has multiple clients she's been doing work for the last 4 to 5 months. All things that should have taken less than a week. She always claims she can't get in touch with them to complete the work. They have not responded to questions. All the typical, it's not my fault I cannot complete this kind of crap. For example, this just happened about 25 minutes ago. I can hear her from my office, so I hear her cell phone ring. She answers and takes a 45-minute personal call to catch up. Shortly after, she is off the phone. A client calls the open office line. I answer, and it is one of her clients. He asks for her, so I place him on hold and use the intercom to inform her that this guy is on the phone to speak with her. I kid you not, she responds to me with, "Oh, I'm swamped. I can't take that call right now. How about you take a message and I will call him back later?" Whatever, dude. I take the message and send it to her. She's not going to call him back, I guarantee it. The boss man here hates confrontation, so he never deals with it. He would just go into her office and take over files when disgruntled customers call and complain about not hearing from her and not having their crap completed for so long. Story 28. I work in the motion picture industry, and after about 30 plus years on the studio floor and in the production office, I can assure you that the duties of 7 out of 10 executive producers are to A. Rack up air miles traveling back and forth to LA, and B. to complain at the assistant production coordinator because she can't get them on the exact flights they want. Those 7 out of 10 undoubtedly imagine that their duties entail sitting in a director's chair in Video Village, sipping a Starbucks, and exhibiting their ignorance by giving the director lame brain suggestions. But in reality, those are just perks that come with the title, and their real vocation is to score those affinity points. Story 29. We used to have those people, but a new supervisor came in and was really good at directing people and distributing work. This was at a manufacturing plant. If someone was standing around doing nothing, or it appeared that too many people were engaged on one particular production process, he would make them, the extras, stand in the middle of the production floor. Then, as he made his rounds, he would always see them standing doing nothing, and it would remind him that they need a task. He never forgot they needed a new task, and the employees were never standing there longer than 5 minutes before he found an area that needed help. After a while, they tried a lot harder to pretend to be busy, but he was good at spotting sandbaggers. Story 30. I was that person. My position was proposal manager for a major health insurance company. We just moved to the area, and this was a job to have a job while I looked for something in my field of interest. I learned my first week I was replacing someone who had been diagnosed with late-stage lung cancer, was out on disability, and not expected to return. My 6th week at work, she returned, appeared to be in fine form, and was eager to get back to work. We became fast friends, but she was adamant she wanted to do the job and only accepted my help at the rare busy times. So I spent a lot of time wasting time, put on about 10 pounds because the company cafeteria had the best freshly baked biscuits every morning. About 7 months later, I left for a position in my field. I stayed friends with my coworker until she passed away about 2 years later in a car accident. It was immediate, she probably didn't know what hit her, and she would have been so happy to go that way. Story 31. In my career thus far, I've never taken over a team or department where there was not at least one person like this. I found that the main reason seems to be that new managers are afraid to ask, what is it exactly that you do, in fear of seeming ignorant. I ain't afraid of seeming ignorant. I'm new to the department. Of course I'm freaking ignorant. That's why I'm asking questions so that I won't be. When I give those folks a ton of work, the hard workers tend to like me, and the previously paid to do nothing unsurprisingly hate me. Story 32. The women at work are like this. They've both been here for over 10 years and have gotten the owners wrapped around their fingers. They can do whatever they want, make their own schedules, even though it's their jobs to be here as office and operations managers, talk to their friends and family on the business line a lot, shop online, etc. Since they don't get work done or do it wrong when something is done, the owners think they are swamped and need help, so they hire more people to take some of the load. Not to mention they get large raises and bonuses often because they complain to the owners. This itself is infuriating that the owners don't see the BS, but when they interfere with my raises, bonuses, and working hours when I help them do their jobs, it really angers me. Happens way too often though, they just continue to make more while doing less, so what the heck do they do here? Get paid much more than me for sucking up. Story 33. We have this IT guy at our office, and I swear he has no idea what's going on. He claims to know a lot about computers and whatnot, but anytime any of our coworkers need a hand, he just downloads Adobe Flash Reader and continues on. He lounges around, never necessarily working. He spends the majority of his time in the server room playing his Game Boy. He downloaded NASA's version of Google Chrome on all of our computers. It's called Google Ultron, and apparently it runs faster, even though I haven't noticed anything. The only reason he has a goddamn job with us is his snotty father employs him. Story 34. I work at an advertising agency. There's an account person at work who sits at his desk for maybe 15 minutes at a time. Then he prints out either a work order or email. He then walks up to each individual desk while shaking his head and then proceeds to complain to each person in the office about said item. And if there is no item, it's a complaint about a client or how our bosses won't hire someone to help him on his one account. Every single person gets the same exact sob story. I've heard him say the exact same, and I mean exact same story, word for word, to everyone in the office. And to make matters worse, he repeats what he says about 3 times to you before moving on to the next desk. He then sits down and the process repeats until 5:30. Story 35. I have had 2 government internships during the summers, and it is very common. For one summer, I had to work on some scientific research project, and at first it was said I had a deadline. But the deadline ended up being pushed back over a month. As I was ready for the deadline a month earlier, I ended up not doing anything for the entire time. My supervisor was leaving his position the same week as I was at the end of the summer, so we would get to work and talk about sports, cars, anything really. Lunches that were at least an hour were a staple during that month. Being paid for this was great. At my other job, I would end up watching Netflix sometimes from how slow it was. For a while, whenever I would go into my boss's office, he would be watching webcam videos of animals. At first, I thought I should be doing work, but then I quickly realized no one ever did anything. Another one of the directors at my job would sign her emails with her colleagues' as number, so if there was ever an urgent matter or to simply call her, it would be picked up by someone else. I never ever really saw her working. She would go to meetings, no one even knew were happening. Story 36. We have Loads, the guy that has a desktop with medieval reenactments as a background and spends all day looking at swords and armor. He has a stutter when certain members of staff talk to him. The girl that sleeps all the time, sometimes I call her phone just to mess with her. The girl that plays Candy Crush all day, she gets away with it because her boss has a crush on her. Get it? Crush. The girl that goes to the toilet for about 30 minutes to an hour several times a day. No idea what she's doing in there. And finally, my personal favorite, the girl constantly updating her CV and looking for a job. It's all she does all day. The company has been ending each financial year at a deficit for about 5 years. Great place to work though, low stress, and I regularly take double lunch breaks. Story 37. Not me, but a friend of mine. He used to work at a Radio Shack and his general manager was beyond worthless. The guy gave keys to everyone so that he could come in late every day. When he finally arrived, he'd go to his office in the back room and watch TV, play video games, etc., while popping pills and getting intoxicated. It got so bad one day that the other team members had to duct tape him to his office chair because he was in an intoxicated rage and was throwing products around and hitting employees. They called the cops, he went to jail, came back the next day and fired everyone. He worked at that Radio Shack until the day it closed. Story 38. Copywriter for an e-commerce company here. I do the English part of an English-Chinese site. My Chinese counterpart does literally nothing all day. She sits at her desk with the screensaver going, browsing Weibo, Chinese Twitter all day long. She claims it's for work because we post to Weibo once a day. Some days she literally sleeps at her desk from 11 to 2 p.m. Napping is common in China, but 3 hours? She's the only one who does this. She actually just moved her desk so that the woman who supervises her can't see her screen anymore. And by moved her desk, I mean she brings her laptop and sits on a couch. And she's not even connected to our servers, so I don't know what she could possibly be doing. Also, in her first week, she was supposed to write a blog post and completely copied it from an immensely popular Chinese site that had just posted it. I don't know why they kept her after that. We dropped out of Google and Baidu search engine results pages for a while after that. She just sits there and does nothing all day. When you ask her to do something, she invariably replies, maybe later. Story 39. Here's one. A woman at my work. Some time ago, her department was dissolved and the staff let go, but for whatever reason, they decided to keep her and just transferred her to another department. Since that department is on the other side of the building, but her office is still over here, she has little to no supervision from her superiors. They never come down here to check on her. She is late every morning, spends all day either on the phone, gossiping with the secretaries, or planning office parties. Anything that comes across her desk, she gives to me because she can't handle it. I have a degree and license in our field, she does not. She will occasionally slip a work order in the system for my crew, which I delete because it's usually asinine and unwarranted. Story 40. Yeah, he's called the managing director. I work in a small company, 10 people. He thinks that he's the MD, so he has to do nothing. He just runs around, shouts at people so he thinks he's done something, and then goes out for an hour and a half lunch to come back and sit on his phone playing games. Whilst everyone in the office is snowed under, he just then shouts again that something wasn't done even though you just finished the first thing he was shouting about, which, because he wants it doing now, you must do it. Then everything you'd organize for your own workload is completely messed up. No respect for anyone and has no idea about normal common courtesy to humans or how to manage anyone. He probably has a substance problem as well. I would be happy for a baboon to rip his mandible clean off. Story 41. Yes, and I'm that guy. I just took some advice from my father after explaining my responsibilities. He told me to create systems, and I did and still do. It applies to everything. I don't really do anything anymore. Like today, I watch the World Cup all day. Yet I'm essential because I've learned how to run my area efficiently and with minimal supervision. My job is not difficult. I manage a small distribution center, but every time something comes to me, I immediately figure out a way for someone else to handle it. If everyone quit on me on the same day, I could have it back up to speed within a week. Breaking down processes is powerful. It really comes down to if you do your job well, nobody really knows what you've done at all. Story 42. Pretty sure that person is my sister. She's technically a financial cost analyst and gets paid a buttload for it. I asked her what that means. She said, well, people who want to submit fees email them to me and I email them to the right people. I do that about once a week. I live about 5 minutes away from her workplace and I am currently on maternity leave waiting for the baby to come. She regularly turns up to my place at 10 a.m. for lunch and leaves at 4 p.m. And when she is at work, she sends me links to Etsy cushions she thinks she can make or cute invites she's made for my son's first birthday. He's not born yet. She banks over $120,000 a year. LOL. Story 43. I am the opposite of that. I feel like everyone looks at me and wonders what the heck my job really is. I've been directly asked on many occasions, what is it that you do all day? I even had a guy in the design department that I see most mornings making coffee tell me once he still couldn't figure out exactly what I did. I'd known him at that point for like 2 years. This happens because I work alone in a windowless room all day. The only time people see me is maybe for 10 minutes a day of my 40-hour work week. What I am actually doing is a crap ton of stuff. I work in the accounting department and count every penny, check, and credit transaction that comes through the place, and I make sure it gets in the bank. I file every scrap of paperwork that proves our earnings for our internal yearly audits. I mail back things to businesses we are attached to in order to bill them. I work through lunches most days and come home stressed, but god dang it, I love my freaking job. I really do. I love the benefits, I love the work, I love learning Excel. Most people would hate what I do, the solitude, the busy work that comes from working in finance. I find it immensely interesting. Story 44. Me. I was hired as a pharmacy tech. I lucked out and scored a cool job of running my own pharmacy. I ordered meds, cleaned, typed out labels, and the rest. The clinic I worked at was slow, so eventually it closed and my boss shifted me to the pharmacy at the other clinic with him. Bam, I became the gopher. I got paid to drive around town getting lunch and Starbucks, driving to a town over to deliver and pick up meds. I even used to call a Craigslist girl so my boss could get a quote-unquote massage. Good money, easy as heck, but I did work when I had to. But most of my days consisted of me flirting with the receptionist, texting, and watching Netflix on my phone. Story 45. There's this dude that works with us that hangs out on the sales floor with earbuds in his ears, talking, presumably on the phone. I have no idea who he talks to for 8 hours a day. I don't understand most of the words that come out of his mouth because of his thick accent. I'll sometimes see him talking to a customer with the earbuds in, and as soon as he's done with the customer, he keeps right on talking. If he's not talking, he's singing. There was a period of about 6 months that I did not see him at all. I thought they finally fired him. I guess he took some time off for parental leave or some crap. He's right back to his old self with the earbuds in, talking all frickin' day. Story 46. Night shift CNA in a nursing rehab facility. There's one girl who sometimes works the night shift, and during her 45-minute break, we all get 45 minutes. She'll sleep in a lounge in another wing. She'll sleep there for 2 hours. When she comes back to work, she goes by the nurse's station and sleeps until the last couple of hours of the shift. Another immediately sets up camp in the dining room. She pulls out a meal, an iPad or similar device, maybe a book, maybe some nail kit, and she just sleeps, eats, and amuses herself until the end of the shift. Nobody gives her crap for it either. The thing is, the CNAs have to be in view of the nurses and they're assigned blocks of room so we can answer call lights, run to bed alarms because people who shouldn't stand try to do it anyway, take vital signs as assigned by the nurses, and so on. I mean, I nap at work too, but I pull a chair out in the hall in the midst of my block of rooms. That way, if an alarm or a call light does go off, I'm right there to respond. Story 47. Me, I'm an HR assistant. I help answer the phones for the company, update databases every 2 weeks for changes in personnel. When I-9 forms are due, I organize all the 1,000 plus forms we have mailed into the office. So I probably do 40 hours worth of work in a year if you don't count helping answer the phones. After my first couple of months here, my supervisor actually came into my office and apologized for my restricted internet access. She said she put a priority processing order into IT to get me unlimited internet time, so I could Facebook and whatnot. It's good for my job between undergrad and law school. Most people just use the position as an in to the company. Story 48. I had a summer job in high school that was easy money. This big shopping center development was built in my town and they finished it just before the recession began. Naturally, this made it really freaking hard for them to find tenants for their newly constructed commercial zones. To fill up space, the company that owned the whole shopping center converted one of the plots into a little mini golf place, which I was hired to work at. There was only one employee on duty at a time, and for the 8 hours between opening and closing, my only job was to occasionally take people's money and hand them clubs. The vast majority of my time was spent playing video games on the free Wi-Fi. My friends were so jealous. Story 49. My old boss's boss, he would wander around saying things like circle the wagons and this it at the wall and see what sticks, a bunch of middle management jargon. When he needed to make a decision about something, he would pass it down to someone below him, even if the decision was his to make and urgent. Upper management wanted to make a bunch of changes that would have taken us so far backwards in productivity and employee morale. He circled the wagons to see what stuck with a bunch of us, and we all relayed how crappy these changes would have been. But when he reported to his boss about the changes, he basically said something like, "The changes will be tough at first, but my teams are confident it's best and we'll make sure they are implemented." The only thing that he did that actually helped the company was to make the call center run slightly more efficiently by adding draconian break rules and requiring unreachable call ghouls. And if any of these stories got to you, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.